What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're just joining my channel, I talk a lot about 7-hydroxy kratom on here, just trying to raise some awareness. I'm not a person that straddles either side of the fence, really. I think a substance is a substance, and really what it mostly boils down to is different people are able to use those substances in different ways, meaning some people have the tendency to abuse substances like that. There are others who do not necessarily have the tendency to abuse. So you've got the people that just don't tend to abuse stuff like that anyway, so it's not a big deal for them. And then there's the rest of us. And by the rest of us, I mean people who sometimes can, sometimes can't control. And then there are people who just throw up their hands eventually and say, I can't control this shit. I need to hand this over to something else. They go into, full abstinence, like a full recovery sort of program, and they just never touch a mind-altering substance again. Then there's the rest of us who, maybe have conceded to the fact that, I'm not willing to admit that I have absolutely no control over this, but I will say it's definitely a cognitive behavioral weak spot for me. And that if I'm not careful, I can spiral down a rabbit hole and I can get in trouble with this. Therefore, I need to be as vigilant as someone with my brain possibly can be when it comes to using mind-altering substances, because I already know it can take me to some dark places, right? And that's just the truth of it, right? Whether you're one of those people that completely giving it up, 100% abstinent, or you're one of the people who really fall into a large category, you'd be surprised, who recognize, I probably do have a problem with substances, but I don't care how bad the problem seems. I'm just not going to give up using stuff for the rest of my life. I'm just not going to be one of those people. And there's always going to be people who just are not willing to give up every substance for the rest of their life. I'm one of those people. And I'm not the only one. There's plenty. I had somebody comment on the channel, say, hey man, why don't you talk a little bit more too about 7-hydroxy, the withdrawals, what you can do to kind of help get through the withdrawals of it, and then about staying abstinent from it long term. So I figured I'd talk a little bit about that. Now, this usually falls under different categories. So how I came off of 7-hydroxy was actually going to a detox facility. It's just kind of what I had to do in the moment. The state that I'm in here in North Carolina, it could also have a little bit to do with my insurance, but I hear people talking online all the time about just getting a script for Suboxone. I'm like, how the hell do you just get a script for Suboxone? And they're talking about doing this stuff like online med sites too. What do you call it? Med online, or you know what I'm talking about, where you call in and you video chat with a physician. I tried that one time, and I literally was told that it was illegal for him to prescribe me in my state Suboxone without having seen me in person or whatever. So he basically suggested I go to an addiction clinic. It's basically what he suggested, and then and then take it from there, right? So anyway, either way, there are a lot of people that have jumped on my channels and said that they have been able to get Suboxone through just a regular doctor or a med online sort of doctor. If you are in a state where you're able to do that, there could be a possibility that you could taper yourself, or basically quit taking the 7-hydroxy, start taking Suboxone. And what I would recommend if you do that, and if you're in a state where you can do that, try to taper off of the Suboxone as quickly as possible. Suboxone, although it is not an opiate necessarily that gets you high, it basically blocks the receptors and keeps you from getting high, but because it covers those same receptors, you also avoid most of the withdrawal. I'm talking like 90, 95%, in some cases 100% of the withdrawal. You just don't even feel them when you're on Suboxone, right? But because it covers those receptors, and it's also a long-acting substance, so it takes it longer for it to unbind and fall off of those receptors, you can not only get withdrawal from Suboxone as well, but if you have been on Suboxone for a long period of time, you can actually have worse withdrawals from Suboxone, not worse, longer acting withdrawals from Suboxone than you can just a regular quick acting sort of like opiate-like substance, right? Like 7-hydroxy or kratom or anything like that. You notice I said opiate-like. It's not classified as an opiate, but it acts like one in a lot of ways. What I did was a quick 6-day taper from the Subutex, right? And I couldn't tell you exactly how much they were giving me every day, but I do know that you can Google, 6-day Subutex taper or 6-day Suboxone taper, and it brings up all kinds of stuff that are pretty much in alignment with what these medical facilities and doctors will tell you to do, right? And the whole idea is, you want to use the Subutex to kind of help you with the initial very, very acute aspect of the withdrawals from the 7-hydroxy, but then you want to try to get off of the Suboxone as soon as possible, so you don't then become dependent upon it, and then a year down the road, 2 years down the road, 3 years down the road, oh, well, I'm ready to try to come off of Suboxone now, and then you're having withdrawals from Suboxone that are lasting a month because it's a long-acting substance and you've been taking it so long, right? So, and I do want to say this, whether you do a detox facility or whether you just do your own personal taper and you can get Suboxone, it's just not freaking easy. Even with Suboxone, the Suboxone helped a lot, I'm not gonna lie, but my sleep was pretty much trash most of the time I was there. The Suboxone didn't help to the degree that I was still sleeping like a baby. I was waking up a lot. In these detox facilities, they don't want to just completely take the discomfort away, because they know that if they do that, then you're getting an amount of Suboxone that you have to experience the withdrawals, okay? To get off of it and to begin healing and to begin getting better, you have to experience some withdrawals. If you're hella comfortable in there, that means you're not going through withdrawals and you're remaining physically dependent. Okay, so just wrap your brain around that for a minute. You don't want to be too comfortable when you're going through some sort of withdrawal. Otherwise, you're not withdrawing. And if you're not withdrawing, you're still on it. And you're still staying addicted and dependent, if that makes sense. All right? So, it was never easy, but once I completed the taper of Suboxone, it did become pretty difficult again there for a few days. Now, the initial withdrawal from the Suboxone was not nearly as bad as what I was feeling trying to come off of the 7-hydroxy. The Suboxone was maybe about 30% as bad as far as the acutes, okay, as was the 7-hydroxy coming off of it. All right. Outside of that, I have had people on the channel say that they've tapered and they've been able to taper successfully off of 7-hydroxy. So I'm going to put that out there as a way that people are successfully coming off of it. I didn't do that, and I wasn't able to do that. I think partially because how much I was taking. I was taking a really, really large amount. I'm talking 5, sometimes 600 milligrams a day. So my withdrawals were pretty severe, pretty acute when I went in there and had to stop taking the 7-hydroxy. Okay. With that said, people have tapered from it, and my suggestion there is first and foremost, you have to know exactly how much you're taking every day, get it down to that exact amount, and then begin to knock it off by, say, quarter of a tablet. Stay on that for 3 or 4 days, then knock it down by another quarter of a tablet. Stay on that for 3 or 4 days, then knock it down by another quarter of a tablet. During which time, try to do your best to exercise, do lots of cardio the best you can. You're not going to feel like it, but doing cardio can help you get your body tired and exhausted, which can help a little more with the insomnia that you're going to be experiencing in early withdrawals. Okay, so that's one of the main things you want to do. Drink a lot of water to help flush those toxins out of your body. Vitamins, vitamin B, vitamin C. Some people swear that megadosing vitamin C, although it gives you diarrhea, can actually help quite a bit in taking away most of the acute withdrawals. I personally have never tried it because I was afraid of the acute diarrhea part. I didn't want that. And you know, I'm a person that has to work every day and stuff like that, and I just can't be running to the toilet every 5 minutes, pissing out of my asshole because I took 5,000 milligrams of vitamin C or whatever, right? But people swear by it, that it actually works. So if you're willing to, brave having that particular side effect and symptom, help yourself. You're welcome to try it and let me know if it actually works for you. So there are some other things, ashwagandha, people say can help with mood and kind of give you energy. I'm just going to leave it kind of basic because it's been so long since I've taken a lot of these supplements that people recommend, agmatine, like those sort of substances. It's been so long since I've used any of that stuff that I don't want to start talking about it and sound like an idiot because I don't really know a lot about those. But feel free to look it up. So cold showers can help quite a bit, and what that does is just cause you to shiver and shake and shiver out kind of that angst that you feel when you're going through acute withdrawal, and it can kind of help get some of those endorphins going, and just can help you get rid of some of the anxiety so that you're able to kind of rest more comfortably when you sleep, right? Or when you lay down. So that's something that you can also do as well. And listen, as far as staying off of it, this guy asked me to talk a little bit more about staying off of it long term. What most people are going to tell you, and what the best thing for you to hear probably is, go into like full recovery, NA, AA. A lot of people just aren't going to do that. I did it for about a month or a month and a half until I felt like my physical and most of my mental were kind of back to where I wanted them to be, and then I stopped going and doing like the NA and AA. I'm not saying that's recommended. If I'm being completely honest, you should probably do as I say and not necessarily as I'm doing. And I think the best way to remain abstinent long term is to go to like NA or AA or whatever. But for me, I just don't ever want to take the 7-hydroxy again. That's my thing. I don't ever want to take the 7-hydroxy again, right? I'm not even going to say I'll never take kratom again, but if I do, it's only going to be kratom, and it's only going to be at specific times. But as of right now, I'm not doing any of that. All right. But so I wanted to, but I am, doing like drinking a couple of glasses of wine here and there. I'll do that maybe 3 evenings out of the week or something like that. I might drink some one night on the weekend, that sort of thing. There's been a couple of times where I've taken like some kind of light grade THC gummies, but I'm talking about like microdosing on them, and to back it up a little bit, a lot of people have sworn by that THC, CBD, things like that can help in the acute withdrawal phase and in the post-acute withdrawal phase before your sleep kind of works its way back together. A lot of people have sworn that CBD, THC really help with that. I personally found that when I was in that really acute stage, and like I said, I was taking a lot more than a lot of people of the 7-hydroxy, but for me, there really was nothing that helped. I mean, I was taking trazodone, gabapentin, they were giving me clonidine. There was something called Visceril that was supposed to be for anxiety. It was supposed to help you get sleepy. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. Melatonin, I remember a couple times they gave me something that had like acetaminophen. Is it not acetaminophen? Whatever Benadryl has, the component in Benadryl that makes you sleepy. Jeez, I'm drawing a blank. Somebody can put it in the comments. They even gave me that one time in conjunction with all these other things. And when I was in my really early onset of the post-acute withdrawal stages, I was taking all of that shit. And no matter what I did, I couldn't sleep. Just could not sleep. Especially the first 2 or 3 days until the Suboxone started kicking in. Once the Suboxone started kicking in, I had a few nights there where I slept a little bit, somewhat decent, more so just out of sheer exhaustion because I had been several days without sleeping. But then when I finished my taper of the Suboxone and came completely off of it, I was good for about a night or two. And then on that third night, once that Suboxone had detached and fallen off of all of my opiate receptors, I then started having a little bit of withdrawal and discomfort again. Again, it wasn't nearly as bad as from the 7-hydroxy, probably 30% of that, but it was enough to keep me awake. And so then I had another, several nights in a row where I didn't really get to sleep. I didn't really get any decent sleep until after about the 10-day mark when I got back home to my house here in North Carolina, and I had available to me stuff like Klonopin, because I had a prescription for Klonopin that I did not take with me, right? Because I knew that they would destroy anything I took with me, right? And so I really didn't get any decent sleep until after that 10-day mark. But, so what I'm saying is, early on, depending on how much you were taking of the 7-hydroxy, be prepared for the fact that it really may not matter much what you do. You're still going to have some discomfort. You're still likely going to have some trouble sleeping for quite a few days. And it depends, guys. For me, it lasted quite a while, it seemed like. But I told you guys before that when I started taking the 7-hydroxy, my wife took it with me some too. And I've talked about her a little bit on this channel, that she's not really, doesn't have the addictive nature that I do about stuff like that, okay? She's more of a person to have a couple of glasses of wine in the evening, and she's good with that. She's never really been into like opiates or anything, but she, during the time I was taking the 7-hydroxy, started taking it a little bit in the mornings for energy. And she at most would take like a little quarter a couple times a day. But when she quit, she did have some discomfort. But because of how little she was taking on a daily basis, for her it was like 2 or 3 days of kind of restless legs, 2 or 3 days of interrupted sleep. Not that she didn't sleep at all, but it was like a couple hours here, 3 hours there, sort of thing. She said she had a little bit in the way of cold chills. Her bowels were a little bit off for a few days, a little bit looser for a few days. Just giving you the details. It is what it is. But overall, it was kind of a quick turnaround for her because she wasn't taking nearly as much as what I was, right? So for me, the shit lingered on for quite a while. And it's interesting because I've had people come on and say, bro, it's not that bad. What are you talking about going to detox, man? So-and-so, it's really not that bad. People just sack up, bro. Go through. I'm like, all right, maybe you're just the man, dude. Maybe you're just the man. Maybe your balls, your cojones are bigger than everybody else on the channel. Could be that. Maybe you're not taking that much. For me, I'm almost a 50-year-old guy working full-time with a family, including a 2-year-old at home, and got up to taking 500 to 600 milligrams of that shit per day. I did what I had to do, and I'm who I would consider overall a pretty tough guy. Like, I exercise, I've been into martial arts all my life, I've taken jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, I've been punched in the face, kicked in the liver, arm barred, choked. I consider myself a pretty tough guy, and I was not about to go through that withdrawal by myself. No fucking way. No way. So it depends on so many different things. You may not be in nose deep like I was and like a lot of other people are. You may be more like my wife. You just take a little bit here and there, and it's easy for you to just taper, or the withdrawals aren't going to affect you that much. But that just really depends on a lot of your individual factors of usage, if you will. Okay. And then as far as staying off of it, if you're like me, you just need to convince yourself and decide that stuff like 7-hydroxy, stuff that's that powerful, that makes me feel that fucking high, I just can't do it. I just can't do it. That is a no-go for me in every circumstance, right? And some of you may be in a situation where you're like, the kratom didn't really get me as high. And I admit that. I never got as high as I did using just regular kratom, or even like kratom gummies or something like that where they were really weak. I never got as fucking high on that stuff as I ever did on the 7-hydroxy and like the MIT 45s and stuff like that. It's just a different animal, different beast. So you may want to be one of those people that, well, I just can't take the 7-hydroxy. I can't take the extracts. I just take my little, happy amount of kratom powder every day, and I'm good with that. You might want to try to be that person. Or you might be one of those people that can't even control that, and you just want to throw in the towel on everything. At which point, in my opinion, if you want to stay 100% abstinent off of everything, take your ass to AA, NA, Smart Recovery, whatever is going to help keep you accountable and keep you off of everything altogether. There has to be some continued recovery there. There has to be a support system. There has to be a group of people who are like-minded and share the same struggles as you that you can bounce off of. There has to be a sponsor or someone that can help hold you accountable. If you want to be completely abstinent, that kind of has to be your future. I really believe that. I'm not doing it, but I don't want that to be my future. I want to be able to have a drink if I get around some people that I want to drink around. I want to be able to have a glass or two of wine at night or with my dinner or something. I want to be able to do that, right? And people will have opinions. Anybody in the NA and the AA community that's really been indoctrinated into that mindset and that belief system, they call me a fool. And they say, oh, this guy's talking fucking gibberish. He's going to be, 10 miles deep down the old rabbit hole of addiction again here in a few months. But there's people that don't. And there's people that don't go to AA and NA, and they figure out what they can do, and they figure out what they just absolutely can't do. And I think it's all about recognizing that and then working to really change that behavior cognitively. Create new habits for yourself. Break the old ones, kill the old ones. Do not give in to those old habits that you knew took you down that rabbit hole. And reinforce the new habits by doing those daily. And that's it. I think that's it. All right, hope you got something out of it. I know it's a little bit all over the place, but there's So I'm just giving my experience, that's all, because I have some experience with this, and that experience and hearing that experience seems to help me. So that's what I'm doing, is trying to help you. That's it. If you enjoy this sort of content, just a guy giving his thoughts on stuff like this, please do subscribe to the channel, comment down below, don't forget to like the video, and yeah, I will see you on the next one. Hope you got something out of all the rambling. All right, see y'all later.